So, what we're about to talk about should not be an issue of race, but just an issue of right and wrong. Let's hit it.
President Joe Biden announced today that he will be commuting the sentences of most of the 40 inmates on federal death row. Biden will be changing the death sentences to life without parole to all but 3 inmates, the exceptions being the Boston bomber and the 2 men responsible for the mass shootings at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh and the church in Charleston, South Carolina. Advocates fighting against the death penalty, including Pope Francis, had been urging President Biden to grant the commutations before Donald Trump, who is pro-capital punishment, takes over in January. Biden said in a statement, "Make no mistake, I condemn these murderers, grieve for the victims of their despicable acts, and ache for all the families who have suffered unimaginable and irreparable loss. I am more convinced than ever that we must stop the use of the death penalty at the federal level. In good conscience, I cannot stand back and let a new administration resume executions that I halted."
So, the question is, why did you not just commute those sentences before now? Well, maybe because you thought that you were going to win a re-election, so you were just going to leave them and just say you was going to just make a reason for, well, we don't have to commute the census. See, these Democrats are some sneaky people, sneaky and deceiving. And this is why people try to, you can say what you want to say about Donald Trump being your next president, but him being reelected is bringing the boils to a head when it comes to the Democratic Party because Joe Biden probably would never commuted these people's sentences. Probably would have left them on death row. Their their the death penalty would have never been executed. They would just been there laying waiting until he got out. Then once he got out, if a Democrat would have won the next term, then those same people would have just sat on death row. They would have just gave the family of the victims every excuse in the world, like, well, we can't execute him now. We'll get around to it. They still got appeals to exhaust, all kind of lies and bullcorn just to placate, and I'm gonna say it, people of color. Because think about it, because I went back and looked at the people that he commuted, and we're gonna go through a couple of them here too, a couple of the cases. And yes, there were black people that were on death row, but there was also black victims. There were white victims in these cases. But in the 3 cases that were the people going to stay on death row, now he didn't say that he was going to kill them. Now, I mean, put them to death. Didn't say that. It just said that he was going to maintain a death row sentence. One, you talk about, what is it, Dylan Ruth, who went into the church and shut up all them people. He kept him on. He kept his sentence on. Kept that guy on death row because it's placating to the core base, which is black people, black Christian people. Our folk. Who was the other one? The other one that went in and shut up all them people in the synagogue. That is another minority. Well, I don't know why we call ourselves minorities because white folks are the minority of the world. But that goes to another group of people, quote unquote, people of color, Muslims, Islam, people that Kamala Harris lost a lot of votes when it came to that religion because of the whole war over there in Gaza. And then the guy that blew up everybody in Boston, it's probably quite a few people there of different races and creeds and stuff like that. And the guy was probably, white nationalist or whatever. So that's probably why I believe that he kept those sentences the way they were. But again, didn't say that he's going to give them a date for when they're going to face execution. He just said he's going to keep nothing burgers, symbolism. That's what it was for. But he's looking to because he knows that Donald Trump is going to probably rush and execute people. Here's the thing about the death penalty. And if you want to take it into biblical scriptural text, there are scriptures there if you read them where it says, if, pretty much if you take a life, somebody takes your life. But there has to be multiple witnesses to the crime and you be found guilty. And it says, do not, take a life out of hatred, out of revenge. That's why you have a court system, a judicial system you know, that will go by the law to where you can prove a person committed a crime or not. And but then if you go to the story of Cain and Abel, when Cain, killed his brother, the Most High put Cain out to the wilderness. He just wandered around like a zombie, for the rest of his life. Well, you probably think the Most High is the ultimate the ultimate witness, but like I said, it was nobody else there was nobody who saw it. So besides the Most High, so he was like, okay, well, since it's not, exactly multiple witnesses, which I mean, you could say it is because you got angels stuff like that, but no human being saw it. They just know that he's out. But hey, put him in the wilderness, out there. That'll be punishment enough. So you can see where it's like both sides. But in a lot of these cases, there were witnesses. There was a jury, jury of his quote unquote peers, and it may not have been. It may have been racist jury. You are trying to quote unquote right or wrong. You're putting a bandage over a 50 cal bullet wound. You're not. You'd rather do that than to go to the core of the problem, and that's the judicial system itself. That's the whole, if I'm going to trial, it should be a jury of my peers, and it was only made for white folk. So when white folk was doing, racial stuff, Emmett Till, things of that nature, and you had an all white jury, the suspects were found not guilty. Brother do something, and it's an all white jury, and he's found guilty. No matter the reason, brother do something, but he could have been defending himself, and during the same time period, and he get off and what I'm saying takes out a white dude. Brother get caught if he's lucky enough to not get lynched in the middle of the field. If he's lucky enough that his neighborhood, his house and his neighborhood and the whole town that he live in is not burnt to the ground, and he goes to trial, he's found guilty no matter what the circumstance, even if it was self-defense. We understand that. We understand that's what it was back in the day. And you can fast forward to now, jury wise, it's the same problem. So what do? You don't get rid of the jury system. You don't ignore it. Just like the police system, you revamp it. You actually put in people who are like this new wave people, these Gen Zs and these millennials, these folks that, y'all have melded together. Now that I think about it, this whole bringing out this whole racial thing that's upticking again, this may be done purposely. Because think about it, we are a melting pot. And you got a lot of these youngsters who ain't racist or don't who don't display racism. Everybody gets along. Children, they're not racist. So everybody gets along. Everybody listens to the same music. Black folks listen to pop music. White folks listen to hip hop music. Everybody listen to R&B and rock and roll, all this kind of stuff. You got some people who don't want to mix, but what my point is, people working together, living in the same communities, mixed race relationships, all that stuff is happening, which in the end really could mess up the status quo of America. Because if everybody is cool with each other and everybody want to kick it with each other, then when you have cases where people go to trial, people just may have the audacity to be fair and unbiased. when somebody goes and appraises a black person's house, that appraiser may have the unmitigated gall to actually appraise the house for proper value. That's what'll happen when everybody starts mixing and the powers that be starts to lose power. When you have the powers that be that says, no, 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 no more baby deletion because their women ain't having no more children, ain't having as many children as they should be, and everybody else is. So they put these Planned Parenthood clinics in the hood because they want black folks to delete their babies. You know, something I don't see. I live in a little small town, a little small suburb south of Dallas. I've been in a few CVS's, been in a few Walgreens, and I've never seen a display of Plan B pills, right? But recently, a couple months ago, I had this cough that wouldn't go away. You know, went to saw my primary care. He said take some Nasonex, it'll knock it out. And sure enough, it did. Because he said it's probably allergies. But I just cough that wouldn't go away. So I called myself going to one of these little CVS clinics. And went to one in another little suburb where there's nothing but a bunch of black folk. You know what I'm saying? That's out there in the neighborhood. Why is it while I'm sitting there in the lounge or the waiting room or whatever you call it, or the clinic, you can see a big display of Plan B pills. Big display. But I don't see them where I live. And where I live is, I'm gonna say on the side of town where the CVS is at. Yeah, no, it's white folk now. Let's just be honest. So everything is a plan. Never forget that. Don't ever put it past you that people that's in power want to see things change, because when things change, you know what happened? They lose power.
Joining us now is the president and CEO of the NAACP, Derek Johnson. The organization has been advocating for the Biden administration to commute the sentences of even more people in prison, especially those incarcerated under the war on drugs. So Derek, what do you make of this move? Perhaps not surprising, particularly after the Pope weighed in, but what do you make of it?
And who the hell is a Pope to us in the United States? He's a liberal. Now the Pope is real liberal. Man, shoot,
Well, we commend the president for this extraordinary act. The clemency and pardon powers of the president is unmatched. And
NAACP, y'all a joke. Y'all are useless to the black community.
It's good to see that he's using the moral authority of his faith to do what's right.
He don't have a faith. Moral authority, how you going to figure that's a moral authority? Because these people, like I said, we're going to go through a couple of cases, and you tell me what moral authority justified him commuting sentences. Now, if he wanted to say, hey, the people that's in death row right now, we're going to leave them there, okay? Families suffered long enough. They deserve justice, you know what I'm saying, by the law. But in the future, but right now we're going to try to pass this law. So in the future, we can somehow get rid of, like I said, this is something they could have been working on for the last 4 years. Could have been working on during Obama's administration, and then worked on when he got in office, to do all this and not wait till the day before Christmas or 2 days before Christmas or whatever.
You think about those who are on death row, over 55% of those individuals are people of color, African Americans and Latinos and others.
Some of them deserve to be there. I mean, seriously, I'm not, like I say, you can't make this a race thing, because you're talking about criminals. You're talking about people who actually did crimes that warrant them being in this position, not just because, well, there's too many black people that's on death row and not enough. Well, if it's not enough white people, okay, I understand that. I'm with you 100% if it's not enough white people, not enough Hispanic or whatever the case may be. But to say, well, unproportionately, it's too many black people on death row, so you need to commit those sentences, man. Again, I ain't even got halfway through this video, but hey, let me.
In fact, for every 8 people who are killed, 1 person later is found to be exonerated.
And see, that's what's cool. So here's the thing. The exoneration, how the exoneration happens, you got people, they go back through the cases, they open the cases back up, they go back and do DNA testing, go look at witnesses and stuff, and find out these people are innocent. That's how you're supposed to do it. For those cases that you are not sure, because that's what you're talking about, cases that you are not sure, people, because everybody hollered they're innocent. Everybody hollers they're innocent, but in the cases that there's really a legitimate argument to say that you are not sure if those people actually committed the crimes or not, that's the ones you go with. That's the ones you go to. Now, the ones that you are definitely sure, like your Dylan Roof, you know he went in there and did that. Why you go ahead and knock him off? Go ahead and get rid of him. The dude that blew up that Boston Marathon, he shouldn't be. Go and get him out of there. The guy that shot up the synagogue, you know he done it. Go and get him out of there. But if you got somebody who's in prison and say he didn't do it, swear him down, he didn't do it, but all of it, it's just eyewitness testimony, and we know the stats show that you cannot rely on eyewitness testimony like they want you to do, like they want you to. Those things, go back and look at them. That's the least you can do. You got the money because, again, you're sending the money overseas to help in other wars, or you got the money to allow these illegal migrants to come over here and commit crimes. You got the money. Go ahead and do what you need to do instead of just doing, like I say, putting a Band-Aid on a 50 cal bullet wound.
Encouraging the president to continue on this moral
Derek
path.
Johnson, he's a joke. And what he's saying is a joke. All these people going to hell.
To ensure that the disparities that we see in the system that has been proven is addressed through the clemency process. There are individuals that should be pardoned. They are productive citizens. And this is the type of legacy that
he put together two things that don't match. Talking about people that should be pardoned because they're productive citizens, right? Okay. Now look, sometimes you got people that commit crimes. They do their time. They should be able to get out and live a life. You know what I'm saying? Be able to take care of themselves, get a job, become productive members of society, pay taxes, get a job, start a family, and be role models and citizens. Malcolm X. You saw stories like Malcolm X, you know, grew up, was a criminal young, went to prison, came out, revolutionary. Yeah, you need people. But did the U.S. government give him a second opportunity to become the person that he was? No. It was a Nation of Islam. Other black folk helped him out. Not the U.S. government didn't do anything. They would just let him rot and hope that he came back to prison. But yeah, Malcolm X, good example.
We will want to see any president go out on a legacy of helping people recognizing disparities and addressing moral inequities.
Not for people on death row.
So, Derek, in 2021, Attorney General Merrick Garland actually issued a moratorium on federal executions. Of course, that doesn't apply to state executions, but he did on federal executions. What do you think happens to that moratorium under a new Trump administration?
Well, unfortunately, we will resume in the process for those who are on death row to be addressed. But think about it. We are clearing the road now. The president, with this one act, have reduced the number of federal inmates on death row from 40 to 3. I think that's extraordinary. And so what happens after this will take a while, because to go through a trial, to be sentenced to death is not something that happens overnight. So hopefully with this act, we can begin to right-size the criminal justice system, at least on the federal level. But particularly, we are encouraging the president to continue on this path. There are far too many individuals who was convicted of the crime today would not be in prison. They would not be received the harsh punishment they've received. And so
not the ones on death row. Again, you putting together two things that don't match. We're not talking about somebody who was on his way to work to feed his family and he gets pulled over because he fit the description. We ain't talking about that. We talking about people who went to trial, witnesses, video evidence, DNA evidence, camera evidence that this is the person who did this. It's a bunch of garbage.
Us continue to on this voyage. It's the moral thing to do, and we commend him for what he's done so far.
Derek, Sam Stein here. I think the backdrop to this is kind of interesting, which is it was Joe Biden in the mid-'90s who crafted the law, the crime bill, that ended up establishing some of the statutes that applied for the federal death penalty. And now we have him, what is it, my math's pretty bad, 30 years later, going in the opposite direction. As this decision comes down this morning, commuting...
They're trying to keep them black votes.
Changing the sentences to life without
you
parole.
Commuted like, 1,300 people's sentences the other day, and now you commuted like death row sentences. That's all. You're just trying to, like I say, it's symbolism. Commuting a sentence does not mean that they're not felons. It just means that, hey, we commuted your sentence, and now you can go on and live your life. It didn't let people out of jail. It's the people that was already out of jail, probably doing things that are being productive members of society. If they were, and you want to commute their sentence to allow them to be more productive, fine, because they served their time. But death row people of this caliber, nah.
37 of the 40 inmates. I'm just wondering if you could talk about what you think the politics are here, because obviously the White House will be attacked for this decision by a lot of people who think, look, these are heinous cases, horrible crimes. These people do not deserve leniency. And Joe Biden, you set the law yourself for putting these people to death. Do you think there's going to be sharp political blowback? Do you think it will stick?
You know, I grew up in the 80s and the early 90s. I understand the crack epidemic and the fear it had in the African-American community, which generated the law of 1994. And as a result of that law, you had the majority of the Congressional Black Caucus who also supported their law. So let's evolve as a nation. Our understanding around the criminal justice system has evolved. In fact, mass incarceration has not served this nation. So if we don't learn from the past, we're doomed to repeat it. So I commend the president for taking a stand today to address what we know is the reality. Mass incarceration, inequity, and citizens.
If only got nothing to do with mass incarceration. Who is a little, oh, mercy. This is MSNBC. Oh, shoot, I should have known. My bad. But hey, get the news from everybody. Get the news from everybody.
Disparity between crack and powder did not serve this nation well. So let's look forward, not look backward. I don't think anybody will have that backlash, although those who will be individuals who are already in the Trump camp.
President Johnson, Simone Sanders Townsend here. I'm wondering
what them shoulder pads, man. Come on.
You would like to see the president do prior to him leaving office on January 20th. I am sure, I'm positive that the president has sought your counsel.
Into my lashes. What in the heck am I seeing on this screen?
And I'm wondering what that was.
But first of all, we encourage this administration, the president, to use the clemency powers to address the disparities across the board. You have individuals who are sitting jail today who is convicted of marijuana crimes that's no longer a crime in pretty much 50 other states.
I get that. So that means, yeah, I agree with that. Those folks, if marijuana no longer a crime, those people need to be out, sentences commuted, and let them come out and attempt to get jobs and pay taxes.
You have individuals who are subject to disproportionate impact of sentencing disparities. You have individuals like Kimber Smith or Marilyn Mosley who should be pardoned. We have an opportunity to hear, as this administration go out, to right-size our criminal justice system on a federal level in a way that we have not seen before. His legacy is something that we will celebrate once he pardoned and commute the sentence of so many individuals.
Celebrating? Ain't nobody celebrating that, dude.
Who should not be sitting in jail or who could be leading productive lives.
Not death row inmates.
And contributing to society.
And Caddy mentioned the role that Pope Francis had to play here. The White House announced that President Biden will make his final international trip while in office to the Vatican to see the Pope sometime next month. President and CEO of the NAACP, Derek Johnson, thank you, sir, for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Man, let me go before I go to another video right quick. I want y'all to see what the Congressional Black Caucus said in their own words. It says, it's written December 23rd, 2024, the eve of Christmas Eve. Congressional Black Caucus applauds President Biden's federal death row commutations. Let me go and read it. Today, Congressional Black Caucus Chairman Steve Horsford, Chair-elect Yvette Clarke, and members of the Congressional Black Caucus issued the following statement regarding President Biden's federal death row commutations. The Congressional Black Caucus has for decades advocated for reform of our criminal justice system to ensure equal treatment of all people under the law. Today, we join countless others in the civil and human rights space who, like the CBC, have for years advocated against the use of capital punishment at the federal level in applauding the Biden-Harris administration for this historic use of the president's clemency powers. The death penalty in America is a fundamentally flawed and error-prone tool that has historically been disproportionately used against Black people and other people of color. The CBC thanks President Biden for his continued leadership and commitment to addressing systemic racism within the criminal justice system and for working to set a moral example for our nation. We are calling for President Biden to expand on this work in the coming weeks by pursuing additional clemency and pardon action under his authority. Now, what if he doesn't do it? What if he doesn't do it? Are you still going to applaud him for that? Are you just applauding him like, stepping fast, old soft shoe, hoping like you've been doing for the last 250 years that they going to do right by you? You're going to say, look, we applauded you and we was on your team and we said yes and we agreed to this and we try to get everybody to vote for you. All we want is a couple of crumbs. All he wants is a couple of crumbs. Are you going, if he doesn't, which he probably won't, if he doesn't commute more sentences, like logical sentences, because he's commuted like 1,300 people, I heard. But if he doesn't do what you ask in the next, he ain't done it in this whole time he's been in political office. But if you think he's going to do it in the last 10 minutes of his presidency, and if he don't do it, are you going to rescind your applause? That's all I want to know. Because I'm going to tell you like this, I don't think he's going to do it. I'm trying to find this video. Let me see. Because there's a few videos that'll tell you about. I want you to see this one.
Well, 37 federal inmates who were sentenced to die for their crimes will now instead spend the rest of their life in prison.
So tell me if y'all feel that this guy deserves to have his sentence commuted.
President Biden moved today to commute their sentences, an act he said was guided by his conscience. One of those inmates, Philadelphia drug kingpin Commutes Savage, convicted of the killing of 12 people, including 4 children. Those youngest victims died when Savage ordered the firebombing of the house where they lived in an act of retribution against a witness. Action News reporter Annie McCormick has details tonight and reaction.
Philadelphia's only federal death row inmate, Commutes Savage, is no longer on death row. The former North Philadelphia drug kingpin joined 37 federal death row inmates commuted by President Joe Biden today.
I'm very disappointed at Joe Biden.
The news left Tina Fox and her
It's a
family
black woman upset. That don't count. That don't count, Joe Biden.
in shock.
This crime is beyond violent.
Inside this North 6th Street home in 2004, many of Fox's relatives were murdered at Savage's direction. Fox's cousin, Eugene Coleman, became a federal informant against Savage. The fire killed 2 adults, including Coleman's mother, and 4 children, including an infant.
They were children. They would have been adults now, but they don't have a say. You can't hear their voice, and they were killed innocently.
Savage was convicted of those murders that he ordered from prison. He was also found guilty in 6 other murders, including a man scheduled to testify against him and rival drug dealers.
So if he was in prison, he ordered these murders. That means there are witnesses, recorded phone calls, letters, snitches, who vouched for this guy, saying that this guy had those people taken out.
National trend has been going away from the death penalty.
Defense attorney Fortunato Perry Jr. does not represent Kobani Savage, but said that Biden's announcement is not a surprise after seeing a major push by critics of the death penalty to abolish it nationwide. As for what this means for Savage moving forward,
That simply means that the individual will remain incarcerated with a life sentence as opposed to an effort to have him executed down the road.
I say that people who have no care for human life. Now, I'm not saying somebody who may be driving drunk, accident happened. Yeah, he shouldn't have been driving drunk. Somebody's life is taken. Give him life. Should have known better than to drive drunk. He thought he knew better. Didn't purposely go out driving, hoping and trying to kill somebody. Or maybe somebody who, in a fit of rage and fighting, maybe it was a fight, and he hit somebody, knocked them out, whatever. And they hit their head and they end up dying. Life, I can understand that. But when you have somebody who hits, who intentionally goes to take out innocent people who are not in the game, and they do this intentionally, those type of people, do not deserve to sit in jail for the rest of their life while other people didn't get that privilege.
That's something that now can never happen.
in a statement, President Joe Biden said that America must move away from using the federal death penalty except in cases of terrorism or hate-motivated mass murder.
What? Hold on. Say it again.
Move away from using the federal death penalty except in cases of terrorism or hate-motivated mass murder. In Center City,
Didn't this video I just showed was hate motivated and a mass murder? And you commuted this dude's sentence?
McCormick, Channel 6, Action News.
Okay. See if I can't find one more. Let's see. Let me just find one more right quick. No, you know what? Let me see. Yeah, let me find one more.
Two men whose death sentences were commuted by President Biden are tied to a notorious crime in St. Louis. The men were convicted of killing security guard Rich Heflin during a bank robbery near Forest Park in 1997. Fox 2's Chad Mira joins us live with more on the local impact today of the president's decision. Chad?
Mike, U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Missouri, putting up what you called a vigorous objection to these commutations today. The two men who committed the crime been on death row now for more than half their lives after robbing this bank behind me back in 1997.
Convicted robbers Norris Holder and Billy Allen are given another chance at life after President Biden commuted their death sentences, a decision that brought a stern objection from the Eastern District of Missouri's U.S. Attorney Saylor Fleming on Monday. She said, quote, "The focus today, 2 days before Christmas, should be on Mr. Heflin's family and friends and the 27 years of suffering that they've had to endure since he was assassinated."
He probably said, "More to see you up here showing all these black people. That's won't you, saying like you hating black folk." No, I'm not hating black folks. I'm just trying to show the victims. You got black victims and then you got white victims. I'm just trying to show the victims. If you want, hey, I'll show I can show one more video here in a second. But then you might say, well, man, you don't know what them people's lives have been like. Probably have no money, no food, trying to find a way to make it, can't make it. Got no money. Well, let me say they had enough money to get guns, weapons, getaway car, however they got it. I see people all the time, you know what I'm saying, on the south side of town, or hell, any part of town. They got an old pickup truck. They got a bunch of pallets in the back of their truck. They got a bunch of metal, bicycles, things of that nature. They out there hustling. Probably barely making it, but they making it. They ain't out robbing banks. They ain't out there deleting people. They ain't out there selling no dope. They out there hustling, trying just to live. You will survive. You will adjust to your situation. Whatever comes out of life, if you got some kind of moral compass. When you robbing banks, hey, it happens. But when you actually taking somebody's life in a commission of a crime, hey, now, do I think that these folk deserve maybe death row because of I don't know the case? Maybe not. Now maybe they should have been commuted. Their sentences should have been commuted. But let's continue.
In 1997, the two men robbed Lindell Bank near Forest Park and shot and killed security guard Richard Heflin. It ended when the getaway vehicle burst into flames, setting off ammunition inside. Heflin was shot several times during the robbery. A Vietnam vet and former member of the Caseyville Police Department, the community loved him.
Rich was like a super cop. He was
Now, as a
always
black person, you commit a crime and them white folk catch you. Oh yeah, they're gonna give you a harsh sentence. So why do it?
out there, the first one in, the first one to go, never afraid of anything.
This is what Holder and Allen looked like when they were arrested, accused of murder. Although they were later indicted on a different charge, they both were sentenced to death. Attorney Rick Sindel represented Allen in the case. He's grateful for the commutation.
The population is not as behind the death penalty as they used to be. It's under 50%. So I think that there is a groundswell of public attitudes towards the death penalty.
Sindel said he wanted the life sentence all along. However, there's a specific piece of evidence that came up during the trial that he believed convinced the jury it should be the death penalty.
Fleming pointed to that same moment Monday when she told us, quote, after he had already been shot and wounded, Allen stood over Mr. Heflin with an assault rifle and shot him again.
So now, does that change your mind? If they should have been on death row or not? Because think about it. If you robbing the bank, that means there are other people in the bank. So why you didn't take everybody out? Because you didn't do it because he was a witness. Because you have witnesses in there already. So why did you do it? Does this change your mind about if they should got the death penalty or not?
And execution style. The Heflin
Now, should
family
both of them have got it because only one shot the dude, right?
asked for privacy at this time, but did say Holden and Allen had fair trials and a punishment rightfully handed down. Heflin's sister Sherry Holmes said, quote, this murder left an indelible impact on our family, including our late parents and Richard's children.
So see, you can't really. That's why the Bible said you can't go after people out of anger and for revenge, because you're gonna always have that feeling like you took my life. I'm gonna take yours. I'm gonna put, I'm gonna have your people suffer just like my people had to suffer. Let's see. So let me find. Let's see. Let me do one more here. Let me do one more. Let's see if he's non-black. Let's see.
The only Michigan man on death row will no longer be facing execution.
White dude. Okay.
President Joe Biden commuted the death sentences of more than 36 federal prisoners. He was one of them. In 2002, Marvin Gabriel was sentenced to death for the murder of Rachel Timmerman. Her father says he had prepared himself to attend that execution.
We thought the timing was despicable.
How so?
We felt that President Biden could have waited until after the holidays.
Though he says he's not opposed to the commutation itself, Rachel Timmerman's father, Tim Timmerman, says the U.S. Attorney's Office in Grand Rapids called him Sunday night to tell him that Biden had commuted Gabriel's death sentence, which means Gabriel will serve life with no chance of freedom.
I offered to speak with you today because I'm a family of a victim, and I think President Biden offered a Christmas gift to the perpetrators of murder, but he offered only pain to the victims of the families of the families of the victims.
Biden says commutations were consistent with his administration's moratorium on federal executions in cases other than terrorism and hate-motivated mass murder. He issued the commutations just weeks before President-elect Donald Trump, an outspoken proponent of expanding capital punishment, takes office.
Can you imagine anyone who deserves it more than Marvin Gabriel?
No one, you couldn't imagine someone that deserved it more than Mr. Gabriel. He killed at least 5 people. Where's the justice in just giving him a...
Wait a minute. Mass, Should his sins been commuted, killed 5 people? No innocent people.
Prison bed to die comfortably in.
Gabriel was convicted of killing Timmerman in 1997, throwing her into a lake weighted down and alive to keep her from testifying against him in a rape trial. Her body surfaced in Oxford Lake in the Manistee National Forest, giving the federal government jurisdiction in the case. The Michigan Constitution banned the death penalty in 1847. The body of Rachel's 11-month-old daughter Shannon was never recovered, despite repeated searches of the lake.
From the get-go, we offered to trade the death penalty for information regarding my granddaughter. We offered that from the very get-go. Gabriel was unwilling to tell us what he did with Shannon. So that's always remained an open hole in our heart. I think we've accepted that we're not going to see Shannon again. We've accepted that. So that bargaining chip is really irrelevant. So, yeah.
Do you think she's in that lake?
That would be my best guess. Yeah. Absolutely.
Timmerman, who co-authored a book on the case, says he'd accepted, even before the commutation, that Gabriel would likely die a natural death in prison. Gabriel is now 71.
Actually, I never really felt that Gabriel would be put to death by the federal government. We felt that the best case, he would be locked in a very small cage and not allowed to hurt anyone else. That was our best case scenario.
Rachel would be 46. Shannon would be 28, probably spending Christmas at Grandpa's home in northern Kent County.
It's just crazy. It's hard to believe that many years have gone past and it's still an open wound.
Gabriel is serving his sentence at the Medical Center for Federal Prisoners in Springfield, Missouri. Scan the QR code at the bottom of your screen right there, and that will take you to a more in-depth look.
So let's say he deleted 5 people and they commuted his sentence. Man, here's my thing. Am I pro or against death row? I don't know. I don't know. I say it'd be up to the family, whether, right or wrong. No, justice. The justice system. If it's not a law to put people to death, then you go by it. If it is part of the law, then you go by it. You don't go retro. You don't pull a Jack Johnson, go retro and change laws and for people and already, if you committed a crime and that's what you are punished for, but if you're gonna change this, then you need to change the sentence for, like I say, people in jail who have been in prison for marijuana charges. You got to commute their sentence. You got to give them, shorten their sentences. Give sentences that would have really, that should have been handed down 30 years ago. You got to change all that. But somebody who done, people, like I say, I feel that people who have no respect for life of any kind, especially innocent people, nah, they really don't have a place on this earth. They really don't. Maybe in the earth, in the dirt, put them back in the soil, let some dandelions or something grow on top of them. But walking around on the face of the earth, no matter if you're in prison or in the cage or out free, it don't really matter. But anyway, CDC, NAACP, y'all a bunch of hot garbage. Your jokes to commend this, because you couldn't say that to the victims in their face. But anyway, tell me what you think about this story. Leave your comments below. Share it with the world. Let's have an intelligent conversation. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Those 4 things cost you nothing but maybe a couple of minutes out your day, but it means the world to us here. If you would like to support us financially, you can get super thanks, super chats, super stickers, and you can go to the description box below where there are links there that you can click on to help support us there. And with that being said, I'll leave you in peace, and I'll see you on the other side.